And welcome to our monthly grief group
Dude, what the shit just happened? Do you need a reset?
free
What?
group coaching call. I was mixing up all of the letters and all the words. This is what happens when I get too excited. Like I can't get my words to work. Shut up. Hello, hey Rashawn. Hello. Hi Patricia. Hi Alicia. Is it Alicia or Alicia? Alicia or Alicia? Alicia. Excellent. Awesome. Michelle. So glad you guys are here. Did I miss anybody? Yvonne and Amy. Okay, great. So excited. We're going to dive right in. So we'll just give you a little bit of a rundown of how it works. And then are you laughing at us, Patricia?
I would.
Their weekly comedy hour, Patricia, when we're on here. So any questions you have about any of the content you've seen, burnout, perfectionism, boundaries, morning routine, habits, consistency, self-doubt. I mean, we have
Any relationship stuff.
Communication, any of those things that you have felt drawn to our content because of, or you listen to the podcast, or you watched any of our free video series. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat. It's also understandable if you're like, I don't even know what to fucking ask right now. I'm just here to kind of see how it goes. And you'll probably have some questions as we go. We're going to go for the full 60 minutes unless people don't have questions. And then we're going to go right on. Freaking boundaries, man.
Gonna be one of those kind of weeks.
So feel free to drop in whatever questions you have as they come up. Don't wait for other people. If you have a question, there's somebody else here who will benefit from it. A couple just quick disclaimers. One, that will be about 30 minutes in. Can you set a reminder before I forget? 30-minute timer. We'll do a 5-minute shameless plug for our village membership community. And the other thing is this will be recorded and put onto YouTube. As I'm saying that, I'm realizing I did not pin us. So the YouTube video will just be our faces. They will not be able to see you, but when we mention your first name, if we do, just to mention we're talking to, that'll be on there. So we're not going to be giving any disclosing information about you, but we wanted to be very clear and transparent about what's going to be happening. Part of this is for you to see if we're your people, that you want to connect with us and work with us. Part of this is just to support our community and make sure that our work is as accessible as possible. We believe wholeheartedly that this should be something, all the things we talk about in Rules of Rebellion, we believe we should have all been taught as children. And yet here we are. And so we are working through our own journeys and extracting the lessons to be able to bring them to our community to make your journey shorter, and ideally to give you more time to live your life rather than just surviving, so that the time you have left to live this beautiful life, you are actually loving what's happening. So, all right, here, because I love your energy and watching you guys has made me aware. Oh, where'd it go? Has made me aware that I am burned out. So one, let's first acknowledge and celebrate the fact that you acknowledge that you're in burnout, because so many of us, myself for a very long time, was in significant denial. And it's one of the fastest ways to end up bedbound, to get sick, to have irreversible things happen in health-wise, and also sometimes in relationships. So I want to celebrate you, Alicia, for acknowledging that and doing something about it, because it's really easy to say, I'll get to it. So I want to congratulate you and celebrate you for being here. Yes, Sandra, thank you. We love having you in the village, trying to figure out goals and purpose at 58 years old. Again, I want to celebrate the shit out of that, Yvonne, because that is no small feat. You have probably had a lot of conditioning for a long time that it's why bother now, and you should have done it sooner and all of that BS. And we're thrilled that you are here. One of the cool things that we have figured out actually in our community is our age of community members is between 35 and 60. So you are in good company, because there are a lot of community members who are also coming to their mid-age of figuring out, like, shit, I don't know what I've been doing, but it's not what I've been wanting to do, and trying to get their life back. And so we're excited to have you here. What kinds of things can I say to my family when they ask me for me to talk about my work, and I want to keep it private because I'm working with new ideas about how to make money and don't really want to share? Great question.
That's a great question.
Friend suggested I say, I'm in a great place with that. I appreciate your interest in that part of my life. This is what my friend suggested to say to my family when they ask about work. So that, I mean, I think if that feels good to you, in my family of origin, there can be a lot more questions after that. So that's not going to shut the conversation down. one of the things that I'm just going to start talking out loud a little bit about this, and then you can grab from it what, what makes sense for you. I appreciate your interest in this, and when I am ready to talk about it outwardly, I will let you know. But right now, I'm still processing it in my mind, and I want to make sure that I don't get confused with somebody else's ideas. Or if they are continuously asking because they want to guide you to do something else, you can say, appreciate your concern, but this is my decision to make. I would love to hear about what you're up to. You redirect the conversation to something else that you both can have a conversation about, something else you're both interested in, like another Hey Limbers, art project or adventure or vacation or something you saw in the news that isn't going to necessarily be controversial. This can all be challenging, but it's, for me, the most effective way to not only put the boundary in place for you, but also to not shut down the conversation so that it's awkward and then it makes the other person feel abandoned, rejected, which is just going to trigger a negative response and a negative energy where you have to now sit in this conversation, is to redirect it to something that's neutral. So something that that they like doing, something that they've done recently, something that they can talk about that they're excited about, can oftentimes diffuse some of the tension that comes from saying, nope, that's not yours.
Well, and also so part of what's wrapped up in this question is a need to make other people comfortable with the answer. And that is a product of being part of a family. Like there's nothing. I think that's a normal thing. I think that when we have family or people that we care about in our lives and they're asking us questions and we know that the answer is going to make them uncomfortable, we want to try to find something that's going to make them feel really nice at the end of it. Mostly because when they don't feel really nice, they keep pestering us to try to figure out how to make themselves feel good with the answers that are coming out of our mouth. But I honestly think for where you are, if you're still figuring things out, the answer is I'm still figuring things out. Like and just be very honest and very upfront and say, I appreciate that you're concerned, or I appreciate that you're interested, but I'm still figuring things out. And when I have a better handle on it, or when I know more information, I'd be really happy to share it with you right now, but I don't actually have anything to share. And you're going to get some blank stares, and you're going to get some people like, I don't, what? And you're allowed to also say, I'm sorry if that makes you uncomfortable. Like just acknowledge the thing.
Yeah, acknowledging that tension that happens when you put a boundary in place, just diffuses it almost immediately.
And then you're allowed to also say, we don't have to keep talking about this. Like, this doesn't have to be a thing, because give them permission to bail out of the conversation. If I would love it if people gave me more permission to bail out of conversations that I was just starting because I was trying to be polite. Like, the reality is I didn't want to know the answer in the first place. I'm just trying to do the social thing. And now you're saying shit that makes me confused and uncomfortable and I don't know what to do. Please throw me a fucking life jacket.
The real truths of masking.
And so be okay with saying, I'm still figuring it out. Own where you are. There's nothing wrong with figuring things out. I want everybody to hear this that is listening right now. We are all a work in progress all of the time. When you think you've figured it out, that is about the time that shit starts to happen where you need to figure a new thing out. That's how life works. And there's nothing wrong with it. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't fuck anything up. Every single day of your life is not supposed to mimic the last one. And you aren't supposed to understand where you're going 10 years from right now. You're allowed to be a work in progress. People around you have an expectation or an understanding of what they think you ought to be doing, or what they think you would be doing based on how they know you. And when they come up against something that is surprising, like I'm figuring it out, it makes them uncomfortable because they're trying to fit the pieces together because, oh my God, figuring it out makes me uncomfortable. Now that means they must be in danger. And you're not in danger. You're figuring shit out. You're figuring out how to make money, or what making money looks like to you right now. You're not saying, oh, please God, am I going to have a place to sleep tonight? Like, it's just a completely different energy. And so being able to say to them, I'm still figuring it out, seeing them get uncomfortable and saying, look, I understand if this makes you really uncomfortable, we can totally talk about something else. And I'm going to be really excited to share with you what I'm doing when I have a better understanding of like how it all comes together. But until then, I'm just not ready to talk about it. And when the silence happens, be okay with awkwardly changing the subject midway through, being like, how's your mom? And like just rolling with it. But it's not our job to make people comfortable. Don't be rude and don't be aggressive about it. But at the same time,
unless you need to be.
right. Like unless they're being toxic and they're being shitty and they're not like letting it go. But otherwise, if they're making polite conversation, they're just not going to be okay with some of it sometimes. And you're allowed to throw them a lifeline and say, don't worry, we don't have to keep talking about this. We can talk about whatever else is easy or whatever else is going on. But being okay with letting them be a little bit uncomfortable is not the worst thing in the world.
You feel like you got some good stuff, Rashawn? Awesome. Okay. Let me scroll up real quick. So Yvonne, I want to make sure we touch on this, trying to figure out goals and purpose at 58 years old. If you have a specific question you would like us to answer about that, feel free, because if you just let me go off on goals and purpose, we're going to be here for 3 days without stopping. So if you have a specific question that we can help you with, feel free to drop that in there. What kinds of things? That was Rashawn. Okay. And focusing on rest. So glad you're resting, Michelle. Glad it was fun, even though it was exhausting. Need a reminder on boundaries as kids are home for the summer. I'm working mostly from home, but hubby is working outside of home.
Summers are the worst. God.
They don't have to be. Why don't you start with that and then I'll come back around.
Yeah. So how you doing, buddy? So as far as boundaries go with kids in the summer and you having to work, one of the things that I want to remind you of is removing any ambiguity is going to be the first step that you take in making your life as easy as physically possible, especially with kids. And also remembering that your kids have an attention span for doing things by themselves for anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes, and that's about max. And so the reason why I say that is if they know where their expectations are for the day, then you have more opportunity for them to be a little bit more self-navigating. And you're not going to have to come back every single time a thing is over, like a show or an activity or a project or something, to redirect. So the very first thing that I would suggest you do is figure out what you want the day to look like and then sit everybody down and talk about it. And we don't have to, again, like we were just saying with Rashawn, we don't have to make everybody comfortable all of the time. So Sandra, when you have things that you need to do for work and they're specifically timed, like it has to be like 9 to 11, I've got a conference call or something like that, or every single day you need like the first 2 hours of the day to get into emails or make phone calls or something, they need to know. They need to know up front, this is exactly what's going to happen. While I'm doing this, let's talk about the things that you can do. If you're uncomfortable doing things by yourself, let's set it up together ahead of time. But let's remove all of the ambiguity. And also, one of the things that I think we do often because we're parents and because we feel like it's our job to cruise direct is that we tell our kids a lot of things that they need to do, but we don't necessarily always ask them what they're in the mood for or what they're capable of or what their capacity is. So like today, we've got one kid who's probably got more energy than the other because the other one had a full day. So asking the one who had a full day yesterday, what's your capacity? Because we've actually got like house shit that needs to get done today, then we can help them work that out as far as like when and where they're going to plug those responsibilities into their day. But also that's when we're going to talk to them about self-care. So we're going to say like, all right, you had a sleepover the night before, a really full day at a Pride Fest yesterday, got home late, didn't get to bed until 10 or whatever. So we've got some like responsibility things that are happening today, but also there's self-care that needs to happen today. So tomorrow you don't feel like crap, so you can do more of the stuff that you want to do. So let's talk about where that's going to fit in. But being able to remove any ambiguity and being able to ask them questions about what their capacity is and what they think they want and they need gives them the opportunity to have a little autonomy over their schedule while also letting them know this is 100% when I'm not available. And so it gives you the opportunity at the beginning of the day or the beginning of the week, honestly, if the attention span is there based on ages, beginning of the week, so that you at least have the first couple of days mapped out, and then you're not doing every single moment of your day in real time as if it's an urgent need. And so some things that you could consider doing for that is being able to have that conversation and have them be the ones to write the list.
They're them writing their own menu of activities that are active, learning, creative, fun, those kinds of things will help you say when they're bored in 4 days because they've done all the things they're going to do, they have their own list to go back to and say, oh, I didn't think about this. Screen time things, art supply things, that kind of stuff. I don't want to cut you off. I just
No, we're good. Keep going.
The other thing I wanted to suggest, Sandra, is asking the kids individually and together, what are the things that are going to make their summer feel like it was fun?
Right.
Like, what is essentially you're asking the kid version of like, how will you know your summer was a success? Like, what are the 2 or 3 things you're most excited about having done this summer that you can then plug into your schedule with them?
That number is really important. So, I genuinely do have a beef with summer, honestly, and I'm not gonna get like deep into it because we only have 60 minutes on this call. But like, there's a lot of summer is like the hot version of the holidays. Like, it's just there's just so much there's so much anticipation and there's so much media behind what a really, really amazing summer looks like. And unless you have an unlimited bank account and just a fucking entourage of really fun people around with you all of the time, it's not possible to have the Disney commercial version of summer. And as parents, we're fighting that, and it is exhausting.
Yay, she remembered. She's asked this question last week.
Nice.
Excellent.
And so being able to get really clear and say, okay, we have 2.5 months of this entire hot season before you have to go back to school. What are the 2 to 3 things that are going to make this thing the best summer ever? Or what are the things that are going to make you feel like you're having the summer experience you want? That way you can hone in on what those things are so that you can build things around it, but also so you can continually bring them back to acknowledgement of, this is the thing that you said you wanted. It's happening right now. Not in a shitty, like, you better fucking like it kind of a way, just of an awareness of the present moment, because it's so hard, especially with young kids, to be present in all of those things when there are all these expectations and anticipation, especially if your kids go to school. There's that massive buildup of the summer's coming, everything's going to be easier. We're not going to go to a place that they make us work. Like, all of this anticipation has been happening. And I don't think anybody can put into words what they actually think summer should be. And so getting into specifics of like, what are the 2 to 3 things that you would want to do that would make you feel like you had a great summer, so that you and your husband can actually start building a schedule around those things, so you can start letting the kids know this is coming. Like, we talked about it, we're going to do it. It's not happening today, which is why today you're doing art projects and you're watching shows, and we're going to go for a walk and we're going to do all of these things, because just because it's hot outside doesn't mean that our life has to come to a screeching halt and wait for these amazing things to happen.
I love that you added that you're going to schedule time with your son, since he's the one that's coming to interrupt you. And the other part I would add to this before we move on to the next question is really recognizing both kids when they've done the things that they said they're going to do, and really expressing deep gratitude and appreciation for when they've honored your boundaries. Reinforcing the positive behavior and less of the frustration when they mess up or when they skip, the thing they're supposed to do, is going to make a huge difference in their ability to communicate with you what is working. And that would be my final thing, is make sure you're checking in at the end of the week, or maybe it's the beginning of the next week, whatever your family time is, that kind of solidifies going into next round. What worked last week? What didn't work? Use the same thing we use within the village and all the coaching, like what was effective, what was ineffective, what were the wins, what questions do we have? So every time, those of you who are clients already, we have these 4 check-ins. What were your wins? Actually, that's one of the things we didn't do. Make sure you drop your wins in the chat as well. Any wins you want to celebrate, so we can celebrate your wins this week. We need to make sure we're practicing that. What were your wins? And then asking the kids, with our schedule last week, what worked? Because this is their new ages. They're a completely different age than they were a year ago. And for a lot of kids, that 1 year is a huge piece of growth, huge, developmentally, what is milestone of growth? Couldn't get my words today. This is luteal brain, my friends. So checking in with them and say what worked, what didn't work, And everybody at the family, as a family, can answer that. Like, it worked that daddy put these things out for you guys in the morning so I could go on to work, or it didn't work because he didn't put them in the right place and nobody knew where it was. Like, those kinds of things can be really helpful so that they start looking at not what was good or bad, right and wrong, but what was effective and ineffective about the plan we put into motion, so that they can take ownership and say, okay, well, what are you going to do differently this week? How are you going to change this for yourself? What is the personal agency we can reinstill in the kids who don't have it through the school year? Where can you put that in your own schedule?
I want to add something about effective and ineffective when we're talking, when we're using that language, especially with kids, being able to say, I understand what you were trying to do, but the way you went about doing it just wasn't effective.
It just didn't work.
It just didn't accomplish what you were shooting for. Being able to use that language gives them permission to realize I didn't do anything bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a bad person, which is what kids hear when you tell them, like, this is not the way it's supposed to be. And so when you're talking about effective and ineffective with kids, being really clear of, I understand, or I didn't understand what you were trying to do. Can you help me figure it out? Because it didn't seem like it was very effective. Like, being able to just let them know, I see you trying, I see you doing a thing. And by the way, this works with all human beings, no matter their age. And so recognizing the effort, but also acknowledging the lack of effectiveness of that effort is just the beginning of that collaborative conversation of, where are we going next? Not, you're an asshole and I've got to tell you how to do it right.
Okay. Yay. Awesome. So, Sandra, if there are any lingering questions, let us know. If you need to go off onto your adventure for Canada Day, we are not going to be funded, but thank you for being here. I'm so glad you could make it. And thanks for asking such a great question. It's going to help a lot of people. A lot of parents are going into summer probably having the same twitchiness. Okay. So Patricia says, have been enforcing boundaries with friends and family as I focus more and more on my health and increasing nervous system regulation. First, we're celebrating the shit out of that.
Yep.
And the immediate family is the current latest nut to crack, and woo. So I want to start right there by telling you, this is the hardest part. Like, the hardest place to put boundaries in place is in your immediate family. People think that that's where you're supposed to start. That is the worst place to start. If you're just putting boundaries, like just having this awareness of, like, I need to start putting boundaries in place because I'm just not living the life I want to live, do not start with your immediate family, not with big boundaries anyway. So anyway, okay. The boy child and hubs are particularly resistant, standing firm, but how to stand firm and minimize triggering myself is a current challenge because my nervous system is super sensitive and I don't want to trigger a health episode. I own my part in creating the monster. Sigh. Okay. So one, just because I want to make sure that you are not layering on more stress on your nervous system because you feel shame or frustration or guilt about having created this monster in the past. You're doing the best you know how to do with the tools you had at the time. So just make sure that in your nervous system regulation practice, you're including that in the work. There are a couple of really great tapping videos that I recommend for this. Shame is, if you're in our community, shame is a thing that we're gonna have to work on for a while because it's been ingrained in us so deeply for so long. And I do this several times a week. So message me, Patricia, if you want me to send you some of those tapping videos. One of the things that we've learned along the way is that putting the boundaries in place has multiple steps. There's a 7-step process that we use to put boundaries in place that is a trauma-informed approach, which is why nervous system regulation is such a huge thing. If you have a sensitive nervous system, or you have chronic health issues, or you have had any kind of emotional or physical abuse in the past, this is a really crucial part about putting boundaries in place because there's so many trigger points in it. So the part I want to share here is communicating the boundaries in advance and reiterating the boundaries in advance so that you are minimizing how much you have to stand up for in the moment is a really powerful shift. I don't know if you're doing that already, but communicating the boundaries before they're happening. You can scroll down if you want to see if she's responding. So for the day of, so let's say today you know that you're going to need to be, in your home office from 2 to 4, and you know that the family needs to know that you are not available from 2 to 4. You've told them 2 weeks ago, it's on the calendar, it's on the fridge, whatever. But today is Monday, and now you have this thing from 2 to 4. You're going to need to send, we do text with the family text because it's easier for everybody to deal with their own emotions and their own reactions to this on their own accord. But also, communicating whatever way is most effective for you, saying, I'm just reminding everybody that from 2 to 4, I'm not available today. If you knock on the door, I will not be answering. I will be available after 4 as soon as you need anything, and I will be available before 2. But from 2 to 4, I am not available because I'm doing these things. And that is it. Now, if at 2:05, 2:30, 3:30, 3:55, somebody's knocking the door and they're saying, but I need this thing, I need this thing, I need this thing, you're going to say nothing because you told the fuckers that you're not available. Okay. You're saying nothing. And if it's annoying and it's distracting and it's triggering for you, your responsibility is to take care of you in that time. Your responsibility is to say, I'm feeling activated because I feel, because of my wiring, because of my conditioning. And this happens to both of us still. And I want to be very clear and transparent about this. This is something that you're going to still need to navigate because boundaries are just as dysregulating as not having boundaries for the people that are closest in our life. And so in that experience, you're going to be able to say to yourself, I feel triggered, I feel activated. Now I'm not having these 5 to 10 to half an hour minutes left that I was supposed to have at this time, but I'm going to take care of me in this time period rather than responding to them. And this is where the shift really starts to happen. What we both have done in the past is when somebody was interrupting our boundary, interrupting that time, that space, whatever the boundary was, we would get agitated because they weren't respecting the boundary. And then we would respond to the person and go and deal with that and get frustrated and say, now I lost all this fucking time. And all of this stuff that happens because you're triggered and your boundaries were crossed, but you're still then giving them what they're looking for. And when I say that, I want to be clear, nobody's being malicious in this example. This is just the product of decades of behavior patterns and relationships. But when you instead say, I'm not available, or you send a text reminding everybody, like, I'm just reminding everybody I'm not available for another half an hour, another 10 minutes, whatever it is, then you take that time to take care of your nervous system and remind you that you are taking care of you in this time, even though you were interrupted, even though you were triggered, you're redirecting this back to you. And so this would be the practice that I would recommend, is making sure that you let them know in advance what it is that you are going to and not going to be available, when you will again. And one of the things, I mean, your people are older. When we had younger kids, when our kids were younger, we would say, we're going to be, unavailable from this time to this time. And about 15 to 20 minutes before we went into whatever, like meetings or calls or whatever we had, we would go and check with them and say, what do you need? Is there anything you need before I go into this call? Do you need help reaching something? Do you need snacks? What do you need? So that the kids, so Sandra, this might be something you can take advantage of. The kids can feel supported. And then when you come out, and I think this works with everybody, you go and appreciate the person for honoring the boundary. So after you at 4 o'clock in this example, you go and say, thank you so much for remembering or honoring that I needed this time. Is there anything that you needed while I was gone? Do you want to catch up? Do you want to take a walk? Like that reconnection is really crucial. This is a part that's so often left out of real life boundaries conversations, is that the reason boundaries are so hard is because it threatens the perception of connection. It threatens the perception of connection for you putting the boundary in place, but also for the people in our lives, because most likely the people you're in relationships with have some version of this triggered relationship with boundaries and having ownership of your time and your agency. And so that reconnection is important, just as important for you as it is for them. And it just solidifies that it's safe for you to put boundaries in place for them, in addition to it being safe for you.
I also would like to ask you to be aware of the language you're using when you're talking about the boundaries that you're setting in place, not with other people, but with yourself. So like in your question, you use the language that you're enforcing boundaries, and that also you've created a monster. And all of those two words, like enforcing and monster, that is not language that we would use to describe a pleasant experience.
I don't see enforcing.
Up at the very top.
Mm.
And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is, if that's the energy you're bringing to the experience, that's get the fuck away from me energy.
Well, it's also fear-based for you,
right?
Like it's not only fuck away from me from that for them, but also like I feel like I have to enforce this on people, and that can feel counterproductive.
It also can feel like you're being an asshole. And the reality is,
Brandon trying to be polite is hilarious.
I'm doing the very best I can. So the language you're using makes it sound to me like you're worried about being an asshole, or that you feel like you've got to fight for it. if you have language where you're worried about pissing people off or being an asshole, and also if you're worried that you have to fight for it, then the energy that you're bringing to this experience is get the fuck away from me. This is my time. And then also, I'm really sorry that I did all of this to everybody. I'm one of the people that's responsible for creating this monster. Monsters are not typically things we want to befriend and like stroll down the street with. And so I think it would be really valuable to, in your nervous system regulation practice, give yourself permission to realize that you didn't do anything wrong, that the people in your life love and need you and don't know right now how to operate in a way where you're not always available. That's not something that we want to continue, but also I think that we can understand within that need, there's a gentleness that needs to be brought to the situation, even if you have been doing this boundary thing, you've been trying to do it with them over and over and over again, and they have not been listening. One of the things that I feel personally is the best way to go about doing it is coming to this with a level of understanding. And this is what we were just talking to Sandra about. Although the age range of the people are different, if we show up to these experiences with a level of understanding of what is it that you need from me, or what is it that you're looking for while I'm trying to do something else, let's talk about that shit before I go do it. Like, we're all quote unquote-ish adults here. So let's be honest. Like, I mean, depending on the age bracket of your kids and all of that, like,
Oh, I thought you meant us. I'm like, no, we're all adults.
no, I feel adultish today. And so, like, just being able to have a genuine conversation rather than, motherfucker, I gotta work and I need you to leave me the hell alone. Like, I'm going to be doing this from this time to this time. I want to be able to support you. I'm not going to be able to 100%, but let's talk about what you need so I can go do my thing and you can go do your shit. The language you're using is creating an air of urgency and desperation around the idea of boundaries. And with urgency and desperation come panic and fear. If you can approach this with compassionate curiosity of, I understand you think you need me right now. Let's talk about why that is so that we can build an environment and a situation that serves us both. That was annoying as hell. That serves us both so that your boundaries are honored and their needs are met. And then when the boundary time, whatever it is, if it's a call, if it's an actual work project you're working on, whatever it is, when it's over, then you let them know, hey, I'm available, but not I'm available free range. I'm available for the next like 15 or 20 minutes, and then I got other shit to do. You've always got other shit to do. Every single person on this call always has other shit to do. And so being able to come to every conversation with an understanding of, I've got shit to do and you've got shit to do, let's figure that out, rather than I need you to stay the fuck away from me so I can get this shit done so we can hang out together. I don't want to hang out with you afterwards if that's your vibe. How does any of that feel, Patricia?
Lots of nodding over here, she said.
Excellent.
Awesome. So would love to hear from you what you took away, if you could, if you have the capacity, in the chat. What are your next 2 or 3 steps so that we can make sure we are, we sent you with actionable items. One of the other things you mentioned in here is, just find it again. You have an open workspace. So that can be really challenging, and I want to honor that because not space is going to be conducive to having, a door closed where you are working. We've had plenty of those. We're very fortunate in this house for sure. Thank you, Sandra. So good. The thing to keep in mind is there are things you can do in the house. It is harder, obviously, because it's when we do this with each other all the time. And I'm not going to throw Brandon under the bus, but he is especially not great at that. I guess I just threw you under the bus.
At what?
When I'm in a room and I said I'm not available and you see me.
I'm fucking awful at it. No, so here's the thing.
No,
I cannot look at Tasha and not talk to her. It's fucking impossible. It's been impossible since I was 16 years old. It's going to be impossible until the day I die. And so our boundary is when she says she's got to work, I got to leave, like, in a real way. And it is one of the hardest things that I have to do all day long. especially if we're in the house and we are in a place that does not have doors. I can own that. I don't give a shit.
So Patricia, that's a really great first step, is to put yourself in a physically different space when you can. The thing we need to keep in mind is there, accessibility issues. So like for me, there are very few places I can go at 6 o'clock in the morning when I like to work. And so that's the thing to take into consideration. But having headphones that you wear so that they can visibly see, this is the sign that I'm not available for you. There's some guy that I used to follow who used to wear like a productivity cap.
Yeah.
That's what he called it. So when he walked around his house, because he was working from home, his family knew that you can't talk to him when he's wearing that, because he's in the middle of processing things and figuring things out. And so there are lots of physical
devices
that you can use.
The biggest part of using any physical device, whether it is a visual, I'm wearing headphones, I can't hear you, you can't hear me, all of that shit, or if it's actually like you adjusting your physical space, you have to tell everybody what these things mean. If you're walking around your house in noise canceling headphones because you think that tells everybody else you're not available, walk into a room with a child that doesn't want to have to do something and they think you can do it better, and they'll talk to you until you take the damn things off to tell them I can't hear you. And so making sure that you tell everybody what your devices mean, like these are my work clothes, even though I'm not leaving the house. When you see this body in sweatpants, then you can talk to me. Like those are the kinds of things that also is a boundary. That's also a boundary device that you can use.
So, Patricia, if you have any more questions, feel free to drop them in there. Hopefully that was helpful. Let us know what you're taking away from it. I love it. I need to reframe my language, create time away to help me set the boundaries physically. Yes, love it. Okay, we're going to do a quick plug on the village, and then we're going to circle back to some more questions. We have about 20 more minutes left. So for those of you who are familiar with the village, you can just hang out, let us know if you're in the village, let the members who are here or the guests who are here, just share what your experience is if there's something you feel called to share about today. But the village has 3 pillars. The intention of the village is to create a space for recovering perfectionists and people who are coming out of burnout to actually create a lifestyle that is different than the survival lifestyle that they've had. This is about getting your life back, figuring out where it is you want to go, who you want to be, and getting out from underneath of all of the survival mechanisms that you've had: procrastination, people pleasing, perfectionism in general, the productivity-based self-worth, all of those pieces. And the benefit of being, there are lots of benefits being in the village, but one of the benefits of being in the village is that you have these conversations with us twice a month. In addition to having an online community where we are reminding you and encouraging you to continue coming back to yourself on a regular basis through nervous system regulation, through the 5 essential pivots, which is what we have figured out is the way to get out of perfectionism and burnout permanently. And you are in community with other people who are doing the same work. You are in community with other people who are having the same kinds of conversations and frustrations with boundaries, and who are having the same challenges with belief in themselves and shame and doubt and all of those pieces. And everybody is on different parts of the journey, but they're working together with the same system and practicing using their voice authentically in a space where no one is judging anything. Our community is a very safe space where everybody's welcome to be all the versions of themselves. You come as you are. There is no expectation of you showing up perfectly. And in that, you also have the educational content where we were not taught as recovering perfectionists all the skills we needed to be able to function in the world. We were not taught about how to put boundaries in place. We certainly weren't taught the 7 steps of putting boundaries in place with a trauma-informed approach. We weren't taught about time integrity versus time management because we don't operate the way the world is structured. We weren't taught about cycle syncing and how to use our body's natural biological rhythms to be productive and also take care of ourselves. There's so many aspects of being a human that our families weren't able to provide for us because they were in survival mode themselves. And in the village, we help our members personalize and customize these concepts to your individual life. And that's what one of the benefits of the village experiences is that week after week, we're supporting you in that process. It's not just learning the information, it's integrating it into your life to make it sustainable. It is a before and after experience. Once you start learning these things and you have the support to put them into your life and it becomes part of your day-to-day experience, your day-to-day lifestyle, it's your habits, you don't even think about it anymore. You start building more and more and more on those over time. And over the first year and a half, your life completely shifts to being something that is more conducive to you having a full experience, you being kinder to yourself, you believing in yourself again, you going after dreams and goals and realizing that maybe you weren't able to receive the support and help that you needed because you weren't able to actually receive because you had a lot of reasons in the past to not trust the people around you. There's so many layers to this. I didn't know if you wanted to add something.
Keep going.
So
we agreed you were going to do this so that we didn't talk about this for hours,
Okay.
because you and I can't shut up when we start talking to each
there
other.
are three pillars of the village. One is the educational content, everything from master classes on procrastination and time integrity, project management, practical things where you have a workbook where you can work it through in your individual life. The boundaries master class is one of my favorites. It's a 7-step process to putting boundaries in place. So you actually get a workbook, you figure out one person or one issue you might want to put a boundary in place with, and it walks you through how to put all of those things in place. We have other master classes on core values and compassion, curiosity, everything that you need to build your skill set for the life you actually want to live that's not based in survival. Is educational content is there, and every time we add something new, when you're already a village member, you just get to keep adding to that catalog. Nervous system regulation practices are in there as well. The second part is the online community. It is not a busy online community because our members do not feel obligated, and we reiterate this, to come into that space and have to show up a certain way, have to post a certain times of week, have to do anything. It's a place where you can post questions, you can share your wins, and where we post content to help you stay encouraged and keep you moving forward in your own life. And then the third factor is these Q&A calls. This is where our members, I think you can let us know, members who are here, find the most value in the ongoing integration of this process of being able to have these questions answered. They take action, like you've seen us to ask you to do today. What are your action steps? And then they come back in the online community or to the next Q&A call and say, okay, I did these things and this is what I learned. Now I want to do this. Okay, great. And then we build on that, and then we build on that. And month after month after month, shifts start happening, habits start to change, mindset starts to change, your nervous system starts to be more conducive to the life you want to live, and you get out of survival mode. So that is the village in a nutshell. If you have questions about the village, please let us know. We do have, as of today, a sign-on bonus for the village members. So if you are thinking about joining the village, you've been thinking about it for a while, once you are in the village, you have access to the village for life. So once your payment plan is over, or if you pay in full, that's fine too, you have access to this forever. So there are, I think, almost all of our village members who are here now don't pay for their village membership anymore because they paid it off, and now they're just here reaping the rewards of doing the work and coming back to the Q&A calls. So if you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can message us on Instagram. Yes, there is, Alicia, and I will send that to you after we're done. So if you have questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram, or we'll send it in an email afterwards as well. You are welcome. Thank you, Sandra. You're so sweet. Okay. Any other questions? If you have any questions about the village, feel free to drop that in there.
I wanted to say, while Tasha's scrolling and looking, I wanted to say another thing about anybody who is working through boundary stuff. For Sandra and Patricia both, who asked questions about boundaries outright, there was a work component to it of, I need to create boundaries so that I have more time and space to do work. If your motivation for your boundary is for production-based action, your experience with the person you're setting the boundary with is going to be different than if your reasoning for the boundary is for you each to have your needs and your wants met. And the switch there is, it's the difference between, I see you as a person who also needs things but doesn't understand how to ask for them, and you're a person who's keeping me from doing the thing that I need to do. If your boundaries are only a production-based activity and that's the only reason why you're setting them, then it's about overcoming an obstacle. If your boundaries, albeit so that you can have more time to yourself to do whatever the fuck you want with, is about having people in your life that you want to see and hear, but you also want them to be able to see and hear you, that is a different experience when setting that boundary. More compassion comes with that. More gentle language and understanding comes with that. And within that, you're going to be able to create boundaries that, one, make sense to everybody, and two, are really, really easy for everybody else to respect because they see you respecting them as well. One of the things that we have been taught is that boundary, like no is a full sentence. And when someone is being a toxic fuck and they're actually putting your life and your sanity and your emotional life in danger, then yes, 100%, we need to say no. We need to put up some hard walls. But if we're creating boundaries with people we genuinely care about, then those boundaries need to come from a place of understanding for both sides of that boundary. Not that you're supposed to people please, not that you're supposed to bend ass over backwards and make their life easier, but recognize the reason why they are crossing the boundary in the first place is because they have needs that they may not even know they need that aren't getting met, especially if you have children. And so being able to understand the actual goal of the boundary is a way to deepen your understanding and your connection with another person, is going to make, one, creating boundaries a lot easier, but two, it's going to make it actually seem like something that isn't a punishment, which is what I think a lot of us have been taught boundaries are, even if we're the ones doing it. That was all.
Yeah, just giving it time to settle. Okay, so I've been a mom for all of my adult life. Narcissistic husband left after 26 years, left me floundering as a person, mother, grandmother. He has to pay greatly for leaving me money, but that doesn't help me as a human. I am very familiar with that experience, not personally, but I've witnessed a lot of that. Also, my youngest child, the only one who lives in the same area, has an issue with me, but will not talk to me about it, and I have no idea what the issue is. Oh, that's hard. So it has had to become her problem, not mine. Celebrating you for that, because I remember a couple of weeks ago you had mentioned, maybe it was a month ago in one of our lives, that was something you were struggling with. So I want to celebrate you, Yvonne. That's huge. That's huge. I have no idea what the issue is. So that has been hard for me. She only calls when she needs money or help with her children, and it hurts. I'm sure that's hard. All right. Figure out, I want to just touch on this. I'm going to look for some more. Can you scroll and find the next question for me?
Yeah.
I want to normalize how often women in your generation, Yvonne, are finding themselves for the first time, and how that's okay. Not only okay, that's fucking amazing. Because I know women who are in your generation who are choosing not to, who have chosen to not re-up their life subscription. And you are showing up. And I just, as tumultuous as you may have a relationship with your kids, or whatever, however complicated those relationships are, I can tell you with 100% certainty, and my mom made a lot of mistakes when I was growing up. I'm sure, as we all do as parents. If she had chosen to go on the healing path for herself and really shown up for herself, and she did a version of this for a little while, I was very willing and very excited and enthusiastic to see her create her own life, and it was inspiring to me. That is not the reason to do this, but it is important to remember that even though you feel disconnected from some of your kids, or maybe all of them right now, that you are still going to be serving as an inspiration for them, whether they choose to see it now or when they're your age. You choosing you and deciding, I'm not done living my life. And maybe actually for the first time, I'm going to live my life fully right now. That is the best gift you can give those kids. And as adult children whose parents who have just given up on choosing to live a full life and honor themselves and take care of themselves and heal and acknowledge their mistakes and all of those things, I just want to take a second to celebrate the shit out of you and really give you the moment of recognition and acknowledgement that you deserve. Surviving 26, no, this is
not at all.
no, don't apologize. All of your emotions, everybody here, all of your emotions are always welcome in our space. Your full experience is welcome. You come as you are, and you get to exist exactly as you're happening right now. I just can't express how incredibly proud I am of you for doing this for yourself, because of how many people wish they could do what you're doing and don't have the courage, don't have the thing in them that's allowing them to do it. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing that. By you showing up, you are putting a ripple into the world and showing other people what is possible. And I just want to acknowledge you for that. I know I was going to say something else, but I lost my train of thought. Do you know what I was going to say?
I don't know what you were going to say.
Sometimes you do. I just thought I'd ask.
Also, Yvonne, this is hard. Like, just so you know, like, you're right. It's really fucking hard. Like, however hard you think it is, you're 100% right. And the thing you are doing now that is the hardest, which is acknowledging this and taking the first steps to do something for yourself, is the way that this starts to get slowly easier. One of the things that came out of Tasha being so sick is we realized that wiping the slate clean and starting over fresh and doing all of those things was massively detrimental to our ability to live our life and to navigate everything, that all of the agreements and choices we had made up until that point still existed. And so when we have these moments of everything really fucking sucks and I just need a reset, when you go do that reset, you wipe away all of your coping mechanisms. You wipe away anything that you've created that makes you feel safe. You wipe away everything that you have done to be able to get you to a place where you have the awareness of things need to change. And you leave yourself, quite frankly, like naked out in the world, trying to figure out how to manage it. And so doing what you're doing, taking really small steps, acknowledging what's going on, owning your shit, whichever part of it is yours. All of those things take time. And as you do them slowly, while you still acknowledge the life that you have and you still meet the expectations, the responsibilities that you have, it will start to become easier, and that weight will start to fall away because you're living your life on purpose moving forward. But I want you to know that it really is as hard as you feel like it is. That's not some shit you're making up.
And it's not hard because you aren't doing something right. It's hard because it's hard. And so just keep that in mind, all of you, all of us, all of us. It's hard because it's hard, not because you're lacking some kind of character trait or some kind of version of yourself. This is just, it's hard. It's hard to go away from all of those things. And it's so worth it because we've gotten through some of the hard. I can tell you on the other side, it's so worth it. There's so much peace. There's so much joy. My God, there's so much joy on the other side of doing this work. There's so much joy and ease and fun and lightheartedness that's available on the other side. Once you start integrating nervous system regulation and mindset shifts into your practices, start letting go and layers of decades of not only your trauma, but the trauma that you carried on from your parents, from your partner, from your kids, all of these people that you have been holding on to, holding space for all of these years. Once you start doing the work to heal yourself, you let some of those things go. And it literally does feel lighter when you wake up in the morning. It does not feel like it's all consuming like oftentimes it does right now.
Well, and there are moments when it's hard. I was thinking about this last night. Recently, I have been, over the last, I don't know, probably month or so, I've been doing things that have been changing my routine, like my actual daily routine, which is excruciating. It just is so hard. Like, it's just so really hard. And I've done hard shit before. Like, I was an alcoholic for 18 years and I stopped drinking, and I smoked cigarettes for what feels like forever. And I stopped doing that. Like, all of my addictions, I let go. And those were really hard. And for some reason, getting up earlier feels harder. And one of the things that I want to tell you, though, about that, Yvonne, is that that version of hard is exciting because I'm not doing it in opposition to anything. I don't have to stop drinking. I'm choosing to show up for myself in a different way, knowing that every day I'm going to have to just claw myself out of bed before 9 o'clock in the morning, because for me, that feels like almost the most possible thing in the world.
You're doing a great job.
But it feels really, with as hard as it, like, I go to bed every night going, motherfucker, you're going to have to get up and do this again. But I feel really empowered by it. And so the reason why I'm telling you this is that, yes, it is as hard as you think it is for all of you. However hard it is for you right now, however hard that feels, it's true. And it's different for every single one of you. My shit's different than yours. But when you're doing it on purpose, when you're doing it with intention, the hard stuff can genuinely be hard and exciting at the same time. And there's grief in there. And that's important to not overlook. We only associate grief with death. when you have been using something, a mechanism of any kind, to get you through some of the hardest shit in your life, and you choose to let that go on purpose, there's grief that needs to occur. That coping mechanism helped you through the hard times. That coping mechanism was the reason why you pushed another hour to get to whatever the hell you needed to get to. And so when you let your shit go on purpose, it is going to be hard, and it can be exciting, and there will be grief involved in it. But all of that together is what we're doing on purpose so that we can start building a life that we really want. And that honestly is one of the reasons why calls like this and the village and the community we have on social media are so important. Because it's really important to know that other people are doing their shit too. And we all think it's fucking hard. But we're all also showing up over and over and over again, and that's inspiring as hell. I think you're doing a great job.
It's huge to show up for yourself like this. Huge. Do you know how many people didn't show up like this today? Over 30,000. Between our Instagram and Facebook following, 30,000 did not show up today. And you all did. I want to celebrate you for showing up for yourself the way you did. I want to take a second because we're about to close out the call. Alicia, great win. Love, love, love this. Not only did you not do the volunteering part, but you also acknowledged that it would have been a distraction disguised as a caring person. That is level 201 shit right there. And
that is you.
I want to honor that awareness for you and that pattern that you have, because we're both very familiar with that pattern. I'm so caring. Aren't I so caring?
That's an excellent sentence.
I am. I'm so impressive. And then not getting my shit done that I need to get done, that I keep complaining about not getting further in my goals for. Yeah. Very familiar. So congratulations on that acknowledgement and or on that win. And thank you for sharing that with us. Okay. So we are wrapping up. There was something I was going to add as we're closing out. I don't know what it is, but thank you for being here. And
this is fun.
This is so fun. I appreciate you sharing what you shared so openly. This is the sense of community. You need community to heal from perfectionism, from burnout. This is what it is to be in a space where you are safe with other people. And I want to thank you for being part of the safety that was created for everybody here today. It wasn't just us. This is a community, and a community is what is required to actually heal from all of the things we're trying to heal from. You cannot heal from it in a silo, which is why we created the village, which is why we're doing these calls once a month for the greater community. And if you would like our support in making this something that you do more regularly and have more support throughout the month, we would love to have you be part of the village. Every one of you here who is not already part of the village, we have had interactions with, and we would love to see you added to our computer, to our community. This is luteal brain. This is what it is to be not.
I think you're actually going back to bed after this call is over.
All right, loves, thanks for being here today. Again, if you have any other questions, feel free to message us. And we will see you, if you're in the village, we'll see you next Monday for our next call. If you have questions about the village or anything else that was happening today, please let us know. And don't forget to check out the podcast. And I will get, I have Yvonne and Alicia, the village links if anybody else wants more information about the village and the bonus for this month. Go message us on Instagram at Rules and Rebellion. All right, friends. See you soon.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day or night. I don't know where you all are.